The two moons and the purple sky of Kepler 442b made everything look strange and beautiful. Dr. Ryan Mitchell was sitting outside his small research tent, looking at his scanner one last time before going to bed. He had been out here in the Crimson Waste for almost 3 weeks now, looking at the glowing animals that came out at night. Ryan didn't mind that it was lonely work with only his AI assistant. He really liked how quiet it was. He was getting ready to pack up his gear when he saw something in the distance that caught his eye. At first, he thought it could be one of the bigger animals he had been following. But as it got closer, Ryan's heart started to race. He hadn't been studying an animal. The thing that was coming toward him was very big. At least 8 feet tall and maybe even taller. The scales on its body shone green in the moonlight, like wet emeralds. Ryan knew it right away from the training videos that all humans had to watch before going to frontier worlds. The Critheri. One of the most dangerous types of life in the known galaxy. The Critheri were hunters. Not the kind that hunted for food or to stay alive. They hunted for fun, for honor, and for the thrill of it. And people were on their list of things to hunt. All of the colonists knew the stories. Whole survey teams that had gone missing. Research stations were empty, and there were claw marks on the walls. Ryan's hand slowly moved toward the emergency light on his belt. Just one press would send help from the colony. They would be there in 40 minutes, but at least they would know what happened to him. He saw something else then. The Critheri was walking with a limp. Very badly. And there was dark blood, almost black in the moonlight, running down its side from a big cut. The creature was hurt. It hurt a lot. Ryan saw it trip, catch itself on a rock, and keep going. It wasn't looking for food. It was trying to stay alive. The Critheri would look back over its shoulder every few steps as if something were chasing it. Ryan's training, all of his safety rules, and all of his instincts told him to hit that beacon and hide in his tent. Lock it up and wait for help. Don't get involved. Don't get in touch. Just live. Ryan had also made a promise when he became a doctor of biology. To help living things when he could. To lessen pain when it is possible. He looked at the medical kit that was sitting right inside the tent door. He watched the hurt animal try to get to the rocks. He made a choice that would change everything. Hey! Ryan yelled, his voice cutting through the wind in the desert. Do you need help? Ryan was almost ready to run when the Critheri spun around so quickly. Those yellow eyes were like a predator's eyes on prey. The creature's hand went right to the plasma blade on its belt, which could cut through steel. They looked at each other across about 30 feet of red sand. Neither of them moved. Ryan could see the math going on behind those strange eyes. The Critheri was trying to figure out if he was dangerous, if this was a trap, or if there were other people nearby who were hiding. Its nostrils opened wide, probably to smell the air for danger. The wind began to pick up. Ryan had been on Earth long enough to see the signs. There was a sandstorm coming and it was going to be bad. The sky was getting darker red and dust was starting to fill the air. Ryan said, "Look," trying to keep his voice calm and steady. "I have a place to stay. Things for medical use. You're hurt badly and a storm is on the way. You can trust me or take a chance out here. It's up to you." He pointed to his tent. It wasn't much, just a regular research shelter, but it was stronger and better able to handle the bad weather on this planet. The wind was really howling now and it was getting harder to see. The Critheri looked at him for what seemed like forever. Ryan could tell that it was confused. This was clearly not what it was expecting. Prey didn't help predators. The universe didn't work that way. But the storm was getting worse and worse. Ryan's bare skin was starting to hurt from the sand. He had to squint to see the Critheri at all. Finally, the creature nodded once sharply. It started to limp toward the tent, holding its weapon in one hand the whole time. Ryan opened the tent flap and stepped aside so that it could go in first. Ryan got a better look at how huge it really was when the Critheri ducked inside. The creature had to bend almost all the way over to get through the door. Ryan went inside and closed the tent behind them. The storm outside sounded like a distant roar. The small fusion generator kept the inside quiet and lit with soft white lights. The Critheri stood in the middle of the small room and looked around. Ryan's gear, his sleeping bag, and his research notes were all over the folding table. The creature's eyes missed nothing, keeping track of every possible weapon, exit, and threat. "Sit down before you fall down," Ryan said, pointing to his cot. "That wound needs to be treated right away." The Critheri's eyes narrowed, but it slowly lowered itself onto the cot, which creaked under its weight. Ryan took out supplies from his medical kit. Even though his mind was screaming that this was crazy, his hands were steady as he got closer. The storm raged against the walls of the tent outside. In the dark, a human and a Critheri Huntress faced each other. They didn't know it yet, but this moment would have effects that would reach across the stars and change the fate of both their species. With both of them inside, the tent felt even smaller. Ryan knelt next to the cot and opened his medical kit. The Krithari Huntress watched him closely, like a hawk watching a mouse. Her eyes followed him every time he moved. Every time he reached for a new supply, her muscles got a little tense. She was hurt and stuck in a small space with a member of a species she thought was prey. Ryan knew why she was on edge. "Okay," he said, taking out antiseptic and bandages. "This is going to hurt a lot. That cut looks deep." The Huntress didn't say anything, she just kept staring at him with those creepy yellow eyes. Ryan took that as a sign to keep going. He carefully cleaned up the dried blood around the cut on her side. The cut went from just below her ribs to her hip. It was sharp and meant to kill. "So what happened out there?" Ryan asked, trying to talk to him while he worked. "That doesn't look like you hit a rock." The Huntress said, "Territorial dispute." Her voice was rough and deep, like the sound of gravel being crushed. "Another hunter wanted the area I had claimed. We fought for it." Ryan stopped and looked up at her. "And then they just left you here? Did you not finish the fight?" "That is our way," she said, as if she were explaining something simple to a child. "We fought. She was stronger. I backed off. The strong live. The weak are eaten by the scavengers in the desert." Ryan shook his head a little and went back to cleaning the wound. "That's not very nice. That's how you stay alive." The Huntress moved and winced when Ryan touched a sore spot. "Say something to me, human. Why do you help me? Don't you know what I am? What does my kind do to yours?" Ryan grabbed the synthetic skin, which was a gel-like substance that would close the wound and speed up the healing process. "Yeah, I know exactly what you are. I watched all of the videos for training. Read all the warnings. I know that Krithari sometimes hunt people for fun." "Then why?" There was a hint of real confusion in her voice now. "Because you're hurt," Ryan said simply as he spread the fake skin over the cut. "And I can help. That's enough for me." The Huntress made a noise that could have been a laugh, but it sounded more like a bark. "Soft meat philosophy. This is why your kind is weak. This is why the galaxy isn't afraid of you. You help your enemies." Ryan said, "Maybe you're right," and he didn't sound upset at all. "But we're still here, right? Still alive, still moving through the galaxy and still doing our thing. We can't be that weak if we've come this far. Now stay still, I need to do this right." The Huntress watched him wrap the bandage around her waist, but she didn't show any emotion. Outside, the wind screamed louder and sand hit the tent walls like angry fists. The whole building shook, but it stayed strong. "I am called Vex," she said at last. "Ryan," he said, tying the bandage. "Ryan Mitchell, but Ryan is fine too." Ryan sat back and took out his food after the wound was treated. He wasn't very hungry, but he thought his guest might be. He threw her one of the protein bars from his food supply. Vex easily caught it, looked at it with clear suspicion, and then bit into it. She made a face that showed how disgusted she was. "This tastes like leather from old boots." "Yeah, they're really bad," Ryan said, eating one himself. "But they have all the nutrients you need. For 3 weeks now I've been living on these. After a while you don't really taste them anymore." Even though he was watching, Vex ate it anyway. "Tell me about your people, Ryan. I want to know what this weakness you call kindness is." Ryan told her this. He told her about the old explorers from Earth who sailed across oceans without knowing what was on the other side. He told her about scientists who spent their whole lives studying one small thing because they thought it was important. He talked about the first people who left Earth to see what was out there among the stars, knowing they might never come back. "We're not the strongest species," Ryan said. "We're not the smartest or the fastest. We don't have any natural armor, weapons, or anything like that. But we have this strange thing where we just won't give up. When someone tells us something is impossible, we see it as a challenge." Vex listened and asked questions from time to time. Then she began to talk about her own people. She talked about the hunt codes, which are old traditions that every Krithari learns as a child. How to earn honor by fighting. How being weak was the worst thing that could happen. Vex said, "For 10,000 of your years, we have lived this way." They measured worth by how many kills they made and how much land they claimed. "We are the top predators. We don't help the hurt. We don't have mercy. These things make you the prey, not the predator." "But you are letting me help you," Ryan said. "By your own rules, doesn't that make you prey?" For a long time Vex didn't say anything. "I'm thinking about some things again." The storm kept going on outside. They talked for hours, trying to figure each other out even though they were from two very different worlds. Ryan found out that Krithari poetry was mostly about famous wars. Vex thought it was strange and a little scary that people had written poems about flowers and feelings. At one point Vex said, Your species survives through stubbornness. She finished her third protein bar even though she had been complaining about each one. You are too stupid to know when you are beaten. That made Ryan smile. Yes, that's pretty much right. We're really good at not giving in. Sort of our thing. As the night went on and the storm showed no signs of stopping, something strange happened. The stress in the tent went down. Vex stopped watching Ryan like he was going to attack him at any moment. Ryan stopped being so aware of how close he was to something that could kill him with little effort. They were still from different worlds and they were still technically predator and prey. But inside that small tent, where the desert storm was trying to tear everything apart, they were just two people sharing a place to stay and telling stories. They didn't know it yet, but this night was going to change everything. The storm had finally passed during the night, and the first light of dawn was creeping across the crimson wastes. The sky turned beautiful shades of orange and purple, the kind of colors that made Ryan remember why he loved working on alien worlds even though they were dangerous. Vex was lying on the cot inside the tent. The synthetic skin was doing its job and her wounds had stopped bleeding, but she was still weak. Ryan could tell by the way she moved that she was moving more slowly and carefully than before. Ryan was making coffee, or at least the terrible instant stuff that passed for coffee around here, when his motion sensors started beeping. He looked at the small screen on his equipment case and felt his stomach drop. 3 heat signatures moving quickly through the desert. Coming right up to his tent. Someone's here, his AI assistant said in a calm, robotic voice. 3 Crithry signatures are coming in at a high speed. Distance, about 2 kilometers and getting closer. Vex got up right away even though it was clear that it hurt her. She picked up her plasma blade from where it was leaning against the tent wall. It's Draken, she said, her voice shaking. The hunter I fought with yesterday. He has come to finish what we started. Ryan asked, can you fight? He already knew the answer. I can barely stand, Vex said. But I will die with my sword in my hand, not hiding in a tent. Before Ryan could say anything, a voice rang out across the desert, shaking the walls of the tent. Vex, I can see you with the person in there. Come out and face me. Die with honor, or I'll set fire to that tent and the thing inside it. Ryan didn't think twice. He quickly and confidently began taking equipment out of his research cases. Containers for samples, testing equipment, spare parts, and tools. The small folding table held everything. What are you doing? Vex asked, looking at him with a confused look. Buying us time, Ryan said as he picked up a coil of data cable. You're not ready to fight 3 hunters, and I'm not going to let them kill you after I spent all night fixing you up. Vex laughed with that barking sound again, but this time it sounded angry. And are you ready to fight them? Ryan, you're crazy. It would be suicide for one person to fight 3 Crithry warriors. It's not brave, it's just dumb. Ryan looked up at her, and Vex stopped for a moment because of the look in his eyes. The eyes weren't those of a scared scientist anymore. They were cold, planned, and focused. He said softly, I didn't live on frontier worlds for 4 years because I was dumb. I made it through by being smart, by changing, and by using everything I had. You can either help me set these up or sit down and stay out of my way. Vex was completely shocked when Ryan began turning his research tools into weapons. He filled his sample collectors with acidic substances he had taken from plants in the area, making them into crude but useful acid sprayers. His magnesium flares, which were supposed to be used to signal in emergencies, turned into flashbang grenades. The data cables turned into tripwires that were low to the ground on the sand so that the charging Crithry might not see them. Vex said, You've done this before. Even his portable stove was repurposed, with its fuel canister set up to blow up on command. Ryan set another tripwire and said, 3 times. It wasn't a question. I've been attacked twice by raiders and once by a territorial predator that thought my camp would make a good meal. Frontier worlds show you very quickly that anything can be a weapon if you think outside the box. Draken was getting impatient outside. Vex, this is your last chance. Positions, Ryan whispered as he grabbed what looked like a simple research scanner but now had a jury-rigged trigger on it. Draken and 2 other Crithry warriors ran around the rock formation, looking for an easy target. They got chaos instead. The first hunter hit Ryan's tripwire and fell hard, face first into the sand. The second person got a face full of acid spray from a hidden sample collector that went off when he crossed its sensor beam. The Crithry screamed and clawed at his face. Draken was smarter and had more experience than the others. He saw the traps and avoided them, his yellow eyes looking for danger. Ryan set off the magnesium flare that he had buried in the sand right in front of the tent at that point. The bright white light that exploded in the early morning was too much for the 3 Crithry, who all stumbled back, their eyes too sensitive to handle it. Ryan didn't fight like a soldier. He didn't rush in with weapons drawn. He stayed behind rocks and used the sun's position to his advantage instead. He tossed handfuls of the fine red sand into the air, making clouds that made it hard to see. He made noise in one direction while going in the other. Every move was planned to confuse and disorient, not to directly confront. The Krithri were stronger, faster, and had better weapons. But Ryan had something they didn't see coming. His brain had evolved to solve problems, use tools, and turn disadvantages into advantages. Then Vex got in on the action. She couldn't just sit there and watch anymore, even though she was hurt and in pain. Her plasma blade came to life with a hum and cut through the chaos. They moved in together without even talking about it, helping each other with their weaknesses. Vex's sword was there when a Krithri got too close to Ryan. Ryan's makeshift weapons gave Vex time to heal when she fell because of her injuries. As a group, they became something the Krithri had never seen before. A person and a Krithri fight together. It shouldn't have worked. It went against everything both species knew about the universe. But it did work. Draken finally called for a retreat, even though the acid had burned his face and hurt his pride more than his body. He yelled, "This isn't over, Vex. You've brought shame on yourself by fighting with prey. Word will get to the matriarchs." The three Krithri limped off into the desert, leaving Ryan and Vex standing in the middle of the fight's wreckage. Vex was breathing heavily and leaning on her sword for support. Ryan was looking over his gear to make sure nothing important was broken. Ryan then felt something warm on his arm. He looked down and saw a lot of blood soaking through his shirt. During the fight, one of the Krithri got close enough to cut him across the shoulder. He hadn't felt it until now because of the adrenaline. "Ryan," Vex said, her voice sounding worried. "Yeah, I see it," Ryan said, and then he fell down. He sat down hard in the sand and then felt very dizzy all of a sudden. "Okay, that's not good." Vex fell next to him, forgetting her own pain. The person who had saved her life and fought against impossible odds to keep her safe was now bleeding to death in the sand. Vex felt something she'd never felt before for the first time in her life. Fear for someone's life that is real and true. "Stay still, you stubborn fool," Vex said quietly. Her big hands were surprisingly gentle as she ripped Ryan's shirt open to get to the wound. There was blood all over the place, soaking through the fabric and dripping onto the sand. The cut went from his shoulder to his chest and was deep enough for Vex to see muscle tissue underneath. She took Ryan's medical kit, the same one he had used on her just a few hours before, and started taking things out. She worked with her hands shaking a little. Vex felt something completely new to her for the first time in her life. Shame. She felt deep, burning shame that made her want to turn away from Ryan's pale face. People had always told her that humans were weak. Soft beings who got into space travel by chance instead of skill. The Krithri, her people, had thought that humans weren't worth paying attention to. Just another prey species that would either learn where it belonged in the galaxy or go extinct. Vex had always thought that. But Ryan had just shown her that everything she thought she knew was wrong. This weak person had fought 3 Krithri warriors, who had trained their whole lives to fight. And he did it without the right weapons, armor, or any of the other things that her people thought made them better. He had used his mind, his creativity, and his refusal to give up even when anyone else would have run. "Why?" Vex asked quietly as she cleaned the wound the way Ryan had shown her how to do it. "Why did you put your life on the line for me? I am your enemy. My kind hunts your kind. You should have let Draken kill me." Ryan was pale and sweaty, and his breathing was shallow. But he was able to smile weakly. "Because someone needed to help you. Because it was the right thing to do." He coughed, which hurt, and he winced. "Because we humans are really dumb and think that people can be better than their worst impulses. That maybe if you are nice to someone they will surprise you." Vex said, "Stupid is right," but her voice was soft. She put the fake skin on his wound and watched it seal up and start to work. "You could have died. You were very close to dying." Ryan said, "Yeah, but I didn't. And you didn't either. I'd say it worked out fine." Vex sat back and looked at this strange, confusing person who had changed her whole world in less than a day. She then slowly and carefully took out her ceremonial blade. It was smaller than her plasma weapon and made of Krithri steel that had been in her family for generations. She ran the blade across her palm and didn't flinch when green blood started to flow. Ryan's eyes got a little bigger as he watched her. He asked, "What are you doing?" Vex leaned forward and put her bleeding hand on Ryan's forehead. The blood was warm, almost hot, on his skin. She used her own blood as paint to make 3 straight, careful lines. A very old ritual that most Krithri only did once or twice in their lives. "I'm marking you as hunterkin," Vex said, her voice full of ceremony. In my culture, this means you are as honorable as I am. It means that people respect your bravery and skill. It means... She stopped, and Ryan saw something like fear cross her face. It means that when I get home, the matriarchs will judge me. They will want to know why I gave this honor to a person. A lot of people will say I've let our ways down. Vex, you don't have to. Yes, I do, she said firmly. You saved my life twice, not just once. You fought for me when you could have easily run away. You proved me wrong about everything I thought I knew about people. This mark is all I can give you. She sat back and looked at her work after finishing the third line. Ryan's pale skin made the green blood stand out even more. Vex said, Ryan Mitchell, your species' biggest weakness is also its biggest strength. You hope. You people keep hoping that the universe will be better, even though it shows you over and over how cruel it can be. You still think people can change. Is that really that dumb? Ryan asked, his voice getting stronger as the fake skin did its job. Yes, Vex said without hesitation. It's just plain dumb. Hope will get you killed on 100 different worlds. Hope makes you weak. My people thought your people were easy prey because they had hope. She looked him straight in the eyes. But it's also why you'll probably live longer than any of us. Only the strong can survive. But you people stay alive by changing. By working together. Because of this crazy idea that tomorrow can be better than today. Ryan chuckled weakly and then winced. Don't make me laugh, it hurts. Then stop being funny, Vex said, but there was something almost loving in her growl. They sat together in silence for a while, listening to the wind blow through the desert. As the sun rose higher, the two moons began to fade. Ryan could see his scattered gear in the distance. It was proof of the battle they had just fought together. Ryan finally asked, what happens now? With your people, I mean. How much trouble is this Hunterkin thing going to cause you? For a long time Vex didn't say anything. I had a lot of trouble, she said. The matriarchs don't like it when traditions are shared with other species. Not to people though. There will be problems. Questions about my honor. Some will want me to give up the marking. And will you? Vex simply said, no. You got this mark, Ryan Mitchell. If they want it, they can challenge me. I'm ready for anything that comes my way. She helped him slowly get up by holding his weight while he got his legs under him. Also, maybe it's time for someone to question the old ways. The Krithri might need to learn that strength comes in many forms. Ryan leaned against her and was thankful for the help. Do you know what's funny? I was just trying to learn about glowing bugs yesterday. It looks like I'm starting an incident between species now. Welcome to the bigger galaxy, Vex said, and this time her laugh sounded almost friendly. Things never stay simple for long. Ryan and the other person both knew that something important had changed as they went back into the tent so Ryan could get some sleep. Not just between them, but in ways they couldn't even begin to imagine that would affect a lot of other people. A person and a Krithri both marked as equals. It had never happened before. It was risky. And it was going to change everything. It had been 3 months since that night in the desert. Ryan's shoulder had healed well, and the scar was so thin that he hardly noticed it anymore. He went back to his research, making a list of the bioluminescent creatures that had first brought him to Kepler 442b. Things were back to normal, or as normal as they could be on a world at the edge of the universe. He had sent in his report about the Krithri meeting, leaving out some of the more complicated parts, and thought that was the end of it. He was wrong. Ryan was at his research station looking over data from the night before's observations when his communication console started beeping loudly. The incoming signal indicator said it was coming from outside the system and was long range. That was strange enough for Ryan to stop what he was doing and answer right away. The screen came to life and Vex's face showed up. Ryan's smile came naturally, and he was really happy to see her. He then saw the new scars on her scales, which were thin white lines that weren't there before. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. He could see what looked like a huge room with high ceilings and fancy decorations behind her. There were other Krithri moving in the background. Their shapes were blurry, but their aggressive stances were clear even on the video feed. Ryan Mitchell, Vex said in a stiff, formal voice. After that, her face softened, and she looked like the person he had been talking to all night. Hey my friend. I wanted to let you know what's going on. I wanted you to hear it from me directly. What's going on? Ryan leaned in closer to the screen and asked, Are you all right? Those scars? I'm fine, Vex cut in, the scars are from problems. In the last 2 months, 7 of them. I obviously won them all or I wouldn't be talking to you right now. She took a breath. I've challenged the Matriarchal Council, Ryan. I told them to officially change the classification of humans. Ryan blinked. Change the classification? That means what? Vex said, in our records your species is currently listed as marginal threat, potential prey. It means we think of people as weak, good targets for hunting, and not deserving of respect or treaties. Instead, I've told the council that people are a warrior species. Full equal status with the Critheri. Ryan suddenly heard the noise in the background get louder. Angry voices, hissing, and what sounded like someone banging something heavy against the surface. The camera moved a little. It's caused quite a stir, Vex said dryly, looking back at the mess behind her. That would be an understatement, to be honest. Vex, you don't have to do this, Ryan said quickly. I mean, I appreciate it, but if it's making things hard for you. Yes, I have to do this, Vex said firmly, cutting him off. That tent and that sandstorm changed everything I thought I knew about the universe. About power. About what makes someone deserving of respect. She moved closer to her own camera. And it's not just me who's changed, Ryan. Young hunters have been questioning the old ways. They're wondering why we ignore humans when you've lived on dozens of worlds that killed stronger species. They want to know why we hunt for fun when working together might be better for us. Ryan could see something moving behind Vex. Other Critheri were coming together to watch and listen to her talk. Some of them looked angry and their scales flared up in anger. Some of the people watching looked interested, their heads tilted. Some of my people call me corrupted, Vex said. They say you've poisoned my mind with soft meat philosophy and that I've dishonored our whole species by marking a human as hunter-kin. Some people call me enlightened, a visionary who is brave enough to see the truth that others are too proud to admit. She bared her teeth in a way that could have been a smile. Either way, the whole galaxy is watching now. This is more than just you and me now. Ryan sat back and thought about this. So my quiet act of first aid has turned into an intergalactic event? Vex said in a serious tone, your quiet act of first aid might just save both of our species from a war that neither of us wants. The matriarchs are really paying attention to what I'm saying, Ryan. They're arguing. They're thinking about it. The Critheri leadership is asking for the first time in 10,000 years if our old ways still work for us. Now they're interested in people. Not hungry but curious. That's a step forward. Someone off-screen yelled at Vex in a harsh and demanding way. She answered quickly without taking her eyes off the camera. Her tone made it clear that she wasn't going anywhere. I have to go, Vex said. The council meeting is starting up again and I need to show more proof. But I wanted you to know what's going on. What you began. Ryan said, what we started. You're the one who had the guts to question your whole culture. Only because you showed me it was worth questioning, Vex said. Be careful, Ryan Mitchell. And keep being who you are. Keep showing the galaxy what people are really like. Ryan was left staring at a blank screen when the transmission ended. He sat there for a long time thinking about what Vex had said. He then got up and went outside of his research station. There were more stars than anyone could count in the night sky of Kepler 442b. Vex was fighting to change how an entire warrior culture saw humanity on a Critheri world he'd never seen before. Because he had given a hurt stranger a place to stay during a sandstorm. One more time his communicator beeped. This time Vex sent a text message. Ryan read it and felt a warm feeling spread through his chest. The universe should be afraid of people, Ryan Mitchell. Not because you are strong warriors even though you are. Not because you have strong weapons, which you do. The universe should be afraid of people because you can turn enemies into friends with just kindness and stubborn hope. You want to help someone who is in pain even if it could kill you. That's more dangerous than any weapon we've ever made. That kind of strength makes everything different. Thank you, Hunterkin, for showing me what true strength is. For letting us all see. Ryan smiled and put the communicator back in his pocket. He had to file reports, study creatures, and do other work. Just everyday things. Still, he couldn't stop thinking about how strange the universe was. How one moment, one choice, or one act of basic kindness could have effects that go far beyond what you could ever imagine. Things were changing all over the galaxy. There were political debates going on in the halls of power. Young Critheri hunters were questioning traditions that had been around for thousands of years. There were new diplomatic channels opening up that had never existed before. Other animals were watching and wondering about these people who seemed to make friends in the most unlikely places. Because of one tent, one sandstorm, and one person who wouldn't believe that being kind was a sign of weakness. Ryan looked up at the stars one last time before going back inside. He had to keep track of bioluminescent creatures after all. He smiled as he worked, and every now and then he would touch the faint scars on his forehead where Vex's blood had marked him as Hunterkin. The smallest actions can sometimes lead to the biggest changes. One person deciding to help instead of leaving can make a big difference. And every now and then that's just what the universe needs.